Singapore Prime Minister Hsien spoke at the plenary session of the ASEAN summit. He says that the bloc needs to stay cohesive and united at the highest levels amid the troubled global outlook. And he says that it must embrace a shared vision for its future. That story from CNA's Saiful Bahri Ismail.
8 leaders of the 10-member ASEAN met on Wednesday in the resort area of Labuan Bajo on the eastern Indonesian island of Flores. Leaders from Myanmar's military regime were not invited, while Thailand, which is holding its general elections on Sunday, is represented by its deputy prime minister. The Prime Minister of Timor-Leste is also attending the summit as an observer after the country was given in-principle approval to join ASEAN last year. During the plenary session, Singapore Prime Minister Hsien said the world has come through the COVID-19 pandemic, but the global environment is increasingly troubled. Against this backdrop, Mr. Lee said ASEAN must press on with regional integration efforts. Mr. Lee said ASEAN must deepen economic collaboration and expand into new growth areas such as the digital and green economies. He added that economic integration has long been ASEAN's priority and must always remain so because it underpins ASEAN centrality. Beyond the economic sphere, Mr. Lee said ASEAN should step up cooperation on transnational issues. These include issues such as human trafficking using online scams. Mr. Lee said deepening cooperation in all these areas requires strong political support. Thus, he welcomed the leaders' statements on the development of the ASEAN community's post-2025 vision. ASEAN's new vision for 2045 will spell out how the group can continue its work post-2025 and achieve its aims for the next 20 years. Mr. Lee also appreciated ASEAN's move to strengthen its capacity and institutional effectiveness. He said ASEAN should streamline and optimize its processes and strengthen the ASEAN Secretariat and the role of the ASEAN Secretary General to enable them to more effectively implement the group's key priorities. Saiful Bahri Ismail, CNA, East Nusa Tenggara.
Well, PM Lee also met with some regional leaders on the sidelines of the summit to discuss future cooperation. Mr. Lee and Timor-Leste Prime Minister Thar Matan Rak reaffirmed the long-standing and positive relations between the two countries. Singapore is looking forward to training Timorese officials to prepare the country for ASEAN membership. It's part of ASEAN's roadmap for Timor-Leste to fulfill certain requirements ahead of being granted full membership to the bloc. Timor-Leste is participating in its first ASEAN summit as an observer. Following that, Mr. Lee met his Vietnamese counterpart, Pham Minh Chinh. The two leaders discussed the cooperation between Singapore and Vietnam and exchanged views on regional developments. Singapore and Vietnam have a growing partnership in the green and digital economies. The leaders look forward to making progress in these areas as the two countries commemorate the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations this year. And Mr. Lee also met his Laotian counterpart, Sonsay Siphandone. This is their first meeting since Dr. Sonsay's appointment in December of 2022. Both leaders discussed deeper cooperation in energy, digital and sustainability sectors.